You talked a little bit earlier about, you having an agent and the different kinds of writing you've done and being published. So, in your opinion, is it easier or more difficult to write in the Christian writing market as opposed to just mainstream?
I think both are equally difficult for different reasons. Because if you're trying to write from a spiritual point of view, but break into the secular realm, the general market in that respect, you're going to run into certain problems. And that's finding a credible balance between how you present spiritual ideas, Christian ideas, but in a secular worthy way. Because if it comes off like proselytizing, if it doesn't ring true, the secular publishers won't go near you. But on the flip side of it, the publishing industry right now is in a great state of chaos, and it's true for the Christian market as well as the general market, and it's just by virtue of everything from the advent of eBooks, people buying online rather going into the bookstores. I want to say that it's in the upheaval, which by the way could be a very good upheaval. It just puts the publishers who are thinking in some very old-fashioned ways at a loss because they're not quite sure how to navigate into this whole new phenomenon. And those who are trying to move into the new phenomenon are very well practiced at it because because it's also new. Sometimes I feel like I've talked to other writers and I feel like we're complaining about a lot of these things, whether it's the rise of self-publishing or ebooks and things like that. But I feel like we're a bunch of the old troubadours who are sitting around somewhere in old England lamenting the existence of the Wittenberg press because now we're all going to be out of jobs. The truth for me is that I honestly don't care how my stuff gets out. If I'm writing stories and they're worthy stories, whether they go out in a very physical form, namely in an a book, a printed and bound book, or ebook, or however it is people reading them, I'm happy for them to be read, however people are doing that. I'm still one of those who believes that books will be around, that the sensory experience of holding a book and reading a book will be around for a long time. I don't think it's going to go away quickly. And besides, if you drop your Kindle or your Nook into the bathtub when you're trying to read, it'll really ruin it, and then you're in big trouble.
Yeah, yeah. I do. I have a Kindle and I have an iPhone with my Kindle app on there, and
Mhm.
I have found that there are certain, especially maybe not fiction but nonfiction, that I get very frustrated that I can't literally highlight or bookmark. I mean, I know they have the highlight option and stuff, but in the bookmark option, but
Mhm.
it's frustrating to have to try and find that again or go back.
Mhm.
That's where I've run into most frustration.
Right. It
With
is.
that.
It is. It's still clumsy.
Mhm.
I know with Bibles, there's a move to get all the Bibles onto it, but I've found with annotated Bibles, it's hard because you're trying to find your footnote, and once you get to the footnote, just to see what the comment might be about the verse or the cross-reference to another verse, that when you click to it, it's still a bit awkward.
Right.
I think they'll improve all of that.
Right.
But I think for the world of fiction in particular, I think the balance between the Nook experience or Kindle experience and the hardbound experience, I think the marketplace will figure it out. And by the way, for me, my son was using my Nook to read Sherlock Holmes, the original Sherlock Holmes. And when I suggested that right next to him on the shelf for the two paperbacks, he just wasn't interested. He wanted to read it because it was in the electronic format.
Right.
And I thought, well, if that's encouraging to read, I'm all for it. I'm very happy with him to do that. So if that's the means, I'm good.
Right. So if someone is serious about becoming a published author, what are 5 things that they should be doing every day?
Well, I hate to put it as a cliche, but I would say write, 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 and read. The fifth I'd put is read. Or you could flip that around and make the first one read a lot and then write. Because one of the things is we sometimes exhaust ourselves and exhaust our natural ability without filling the well, the creative well. And what I tend to do, especially if I'm working on a book or a story in a particular genre, is I then seek out the best writers of that genre to see how they do what they do. Not to lift it or steal it, because the way I write, everything is filtered through how I write anyway. It's filtered through my imagination. So I don't even know that I could write exactly like another writer anyway. But especially as a starting point, you want to fill up the well as much as possible with ideas. And a lot of times it's subliminal. I mean, you read something, it inspires you, and it inspires you at a very deep level. So those 5 things are essential to just the writing, and that is, don't make excuses, because as writers we often do. You write, you just keep writing, keep at it, try to perfect the craft, read the best that you can. And by the way, the best doesn't always mean the literary classics. I'm not always talking Hemingway. Sometimes it is reading, just read almost anything. I mean, sometimes if that's what stimulates your imagination, if that's what inspires you to write, then don't put your level necessarily always at the recognized classic writers. Look for the really, really good writers that sometimes aren't recognized, but they are still very good. Now, the addendum to all that is very simply, then you have to think through the business of what you want to do. Once you start writing, then you're moving into the realm of, okay, what's out in the marketplace? If you have a particular story of a particular genre, who's publishing that? So you can explore that. A lot of publishers won't look at anything that you have to send without an agent. And an agent is often a good gatekeeper to give you a sense of what you're trying to do and what the marketplace wants. Now, they can be wrong, and what they say cannot be done now. It's the old rule that something can't be done until somebody actually does it, and then all of a sudden the rule is broken. And then there's also, with the advent of eBooks and a form of self-publishing in that realm, that's to be explored too. I mean, there are a lot of credible writers who are now bypassing traditional publishers and figuring out how to get it into the marketplace without them. But really, it's first you've got to establish who you are, what you're writing, is there a market for that? And then you move into the business of finding the means to get it into the marketplace by whatever means is available.
So that leads into our next question, actually. So, what are 5 things that you should be spending your money on if you want to be a published author? And you mentioned an agent. What are some other things, or maybe how does one go about finding a good agent?
Well, I think with the agent side of it, again, there are books available. Our Writers Market place, I think, does a yearly thing. You can go online a lot of times now. Begin to look for agents who seem to specialize in the kind of genre that you're doing, who represent the authors that you admire, who write the kinds of stories that you're writing. That'll give you a good pointer. If you're writing in the Christian realm, you'll be able to do the same thing. I think there is a Christian Writers Market book.
There is
magazines. There are a lot of different things that you can look at, and really you want to narrow it down, because if you try to send whatever out to, if you don't waste your time and money sending a book or a project or a proposal out to somebody who doesn't publish in that realm or isn't an agent for that realm, unless they've said they are looking for that. So your time and energy could be spent in homework. Do your research first. I think naively sometimes we just think, oh, I'll just throw stuff into envelopes or email a variety of people. And they will respect that you've done your homework. They will respect that you've approached them as an agent because you knew that that's what they do or that's what they're looking for. Same thing with publishers. It doesn't make sense to send an idea for one kind of book to a publisher who specializes in another kind of book. If you're doing fiction, then you want to find out who the leaders are in the fiction publishing, especially for your genre. If it's Christian, who's driving everything right now? And be aware of the phases, though. Again, that's the hard reality, that there are published authors who can't get published right now because the marketplace has moved into a realm that they don't do. Brief story, we do for radio theater a series called The Father Gilbert Mysteries. And I started to develop a book series to complement the audio dramas that we were doing, and had a publisher who had actually signed me to do them. And in the middle of it, after I'd finished the first book, they came back and said, you know, we've decided to change our strategy. We want to do all romances now. So is there any way of you turning Father Gilbert mysteries into sort of romance mysteries? And I looked and said, well, I'm sorry, I can't. And we wound up canceling the contract and left it at that. So there's a whole move right now in the Bibles and Bonnets, as some people call it. It's Amish, you know, it's sort of the Amish romances or historical or the Wild West or whatever it is. I don't begrudge that that's where the marketplace is, but as a writer who doesn't necessarily do that, I have to be sensitive that I may be in a period where I want to write does not line up with the marketplace. And in theory, my agent is going to help me navigate that.
Okay. So, you know, you said 5 things to do is write, write,
Right?
and read.
Yeah, and read.
So, what, you know, have you taken any formal training, any classes, courses, college, you know, anything online, or do you recommend anything like that for authors that want to get better at their craft?
I think it depends on the person. For me, I did when I was in college took various classes about writing. I majored in journalism. I didn't major in English because I was afraid that if I majored in English, I would become a teacher and would always have a manuscript sitting at my desk that I never got published. I thought journalism would make me a working writer, and it actually did as I've moved into other areas of what I would call the tent making, which was copywriting and things like that. There's great value, I think, in the inspiration and advice that can come from writers' conferences, symposiums. Regular writers' groups can be good. Sometimes I've found them to be a little bit self-indulgent. So, you know, you can go in and have your say and read your work or get constructive, hopefully constructive criticism. But you have to take that criticism in the context of, does it align with what you're trying to do, and will it help you, and does it inspire you to become a better writer? That to me is always the goal. I want to engage myself in things that inspire me to be better than I am and to do better work than I'm currently doing, because there's always room for improvement.
Is there anything else that you want to share with our viewers, that anything that you're promoting right now or that Focus on the Family is promoting?
Well, we have, of course, Adventures in Odyssey is coming up to its 25th anniversary, and I think we've got big events for that. We're still doing radio theater. So right now we're in the post-production on Oliver Twist. So we've done a dramatization of Oliver Twist, and now we're exploring the different stories that we want to move into next. For me, I'm just working on a variety of personal things that I'm not ready to quite announce when that's going to come out, but other story ideas and things that I want to do. But the main thing would be the stuff that we're doing here at Focus. I am very pleased and proud of what we're actually accomplishing here.
Great. Well, we'll also include links, obviously, to your website and to Focus on the Family's website below this interview here, so
Great.
People can find out more and kind of keep up to date with what's happening and the new announcement that you're going to have soon.
Okay, great.